I mean, of course it is racist. It takes advantage of the fact that the Palestinian refugee has weak papers.
Zaid Abdulnasser is a Palestinian refugee from Syria who is being stripped of his refugee status by Germany because of his Palestinian activism. More specifically, the German government sent a letter accusing him of being part of an extremist organization.
Any person who works any sort of pro-Palestine work, they try immediately to connect him to like a Palestinian resistance group that is on the EU terrorist list. I am active at Samidun Palestinian Prisoner Solidarity Network and also in the Masar Badil movement. We are not the first organization that works internationally, grassroots work, very normal political work that is being listed on terrorist list by the Israeli occupation. If they see an organization that is a bit left, then they try to connect it to PFLP. If they see that it has more of an Islamic view, or then they try to connect it, of course, to Hamas. And Germany, for example, has no proof that we have any connection with the PFLP or any other faction. If there was a connection, then they wouldn't have tried to attack me, for example, with my residency. There are laws for supporting terrorism, you know? I mean, of course, we don't see that as terrorism. We see it as Palestinian resistance. But there are laws that they could use to actually apply to me.
Zaid studied electrical engineering in Germany, but was unable to return to Syria due to the civil war, so was granted refugee status in Germany. The authorities have informed him his new status, called Duldungsstatus, will stop him from traveling or working.
So my ability to travel, it has always been limited as a Palestinian refugee. And with the Duldung, then I will be stuck in Germany. I will not be allowed to leave Germany. I could definitely lose my job, yeah. Now I'm working as an electrical engineer. And I could lose my job either through the state, or I could lose my job through Zionists trying to track down who is this Zaid, where does he work, we'll try to pressure his job. It's really important to know that this is not the first time this happens in Germany. We know from our circles that some other people also have had the same exact thing happen to them. And they were stripped of their residencies for their pro-Palestine work. And very legal pro-Palestine work where you just participate in demonstrations. Of course it is racist. It takes advantage of the fact that the Palestinian refugee has weak papers. And you can't apply this method to anyone else other than refugees. Of course it is racist.
Germany has long been hostile to pro-Palestinian viewpoints. Even large parts of the German left wing, usually an ally to the Palestinian movement, are pro-Israel. But Germany's guilt over its role in the Holocaust isn't the only reason for its support for Israel.
Their history of the Holocaust and murdering the Jewish people is always being used to shut down any kind of pro-Palestine work that takes place in Germany. This is their way of atoning for their sins. This is like the narrative that the state keeps enforcing. But it is very clear that this is not about it. It is very clear that Germany has a mutual interest with the occupation of Palestine. Germany is the largest trade partner in the EU with the occupation. It does military maneuvers, it does arms deals for billions of euros. So there is a vested interest in having the occupation in Palestine. And they also understand it as this military base for the West in the Middle East that protects the interests of the Western states. So this whole narrative is very dishonest, and it plays on a very horrific thing that happened in history that Nazi Germany actually committed, and it uses it and abuses it in this way that justifies killing another people.
The situation for Palestinians and those that want to show their solidarity with Gaza is getting worse by the day. Protesters shut down by riot police, people with kafirs arrested, candles for dead children stomped on, and protesters beaten unconscious. Meanwhile, those organizing the protests are called Hamas sympathizers and anti-Semites.
Of course, everything that they do against Samidun, against me, against pro-Palestine work in Germany is justified as combating anti-Semitism. But what we say is that it is the Palestinian liberation movement that is combating anti-Semitism, because the Palestinian liberation movement has always refused the equation between the horrific violence of the occupation that is being applied to the Palestinians. We refuse to equate it with being Jewish. We refuse to equate it and say this represents the Jewish people. It is Western states and it's the Israel that says what we do represents Jewishness. We refuse this. The idea that German courts are unaffected by politics, they're very objective and sticking to the law, is of course a lie. We know that even my case is politically motivated. And of course, the internal politics of Germany has an effect on what happens with my case. It could be used as the state showing, oh, we're being tough on anti-Semitism in Germany. This is a possibility.